Ready Check Radio. What's up, Internet? Welcome to the Relic Grind, Ready Check Radio's Final Fantasy XIV Square Enix podcast. It's Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That means we're doing the show live. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, as always. And there's like no Final Fantasy XIV news today. So, I mean, that segment, that segment's going to be about that big, like that big. So we'll get to some other Square Enix stuff instead. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, do us a favor if you would, please take a moment. Would be still our hearts if you would deign to subscribe and follow and turn notifications on and tell friends. We are closing in on 400 Twitter followers, or Twitch followers, Twitch followers. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's keep that rolling. And YouTube subscribers, it all helps produce this type of content. So if you like it, you love it, you want more of it, click those subscribes and follows. ReadyCheckRadio.com will get you to all the socials. That's RAIDEO.com. So since we don't have a lot of Final Fantasy XIV news, that'll be next week, I'm sure. There might be a little news next week, a little bit. We are going to take the opportunity to do our Final Fantasy trading card game, Opus XIII Legends set review. Now, we did 13 or 12 when that came out. Chris Adams joined us, was not able to join us today, so give our best to Chris, and we hope to see him in the next set review. So we're going to go through it. Joining me to do so, Mr. Chris Montoya, back from break, a.k.a. Tarkoth. What's up, sir? You having a delicious Butterfinger there, huh? Boy, if that wasn't the grossest bite of a Butterfinger I've ever watched anybody take.
That doesn't look enjoyable.
No, I mean, it looked like you were forcing that son of a bitch down.
Greetings programs.
Like, I'm going to bite this. That really looked like I'm going to bite this for the joke, but I hate Butterfingers.
I know. I had to buy 5. I just had a craving to buy 5 of them for some reason.
Just randomly.
Randomly.
You know, we all have that.
I missed that joke wasn't here for that last week. So
yeah, we all have that. Welcome back. Good to have you, my friend. Hope you enjoyed your couple of weeks off.
And Kronos, I want to say thank you for the greetings program last week. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
He had to get it in there. Mr. Adam Lane, a.k.a. Kronos. What's up, sir?
No, I can't believe I'm the only person that probably hasn't purchased Butterfingers, dude. I'm the mount collector.
You're the mount guy, and you haven't done it yet?
I get there and then I have to fill out all this information. And I'm like, is it really worth this much effort to spend $5 on Butterfingers and fill out this long form and then take a picture of my receipts? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure if the mount's worth it or not.
I mean, the long form was like your name, your address, and your email address. It wasn't that long.
Yeah, I guess. But why do I have to give that stuff to Butterfinger? What do they need? I don't know.
What do you think, man?
You got that whole long receipt. I did.
I'm not trying. I'm not trying to get emails from Butterfingers for the next 10 years. Okay, like I don't need that.
Yeah, here's my receipt, and that all it is 6 Butterfinger bars to total $6, so that it was at least 5. And I still haven't gotten my code yet. Did you get yours, Tark?
I have not yet.
Okay. Yet. Yeah, I went to the site and it was like, we're still verifying your receipt. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, what? You really think we're passing around the same receipts? Like, all right, I got mine, Adam. Here you go. Here's your take a picture of it. Oh, man. It was really weird to crop it, though, because I was like, I am not giving them, like, debit information, even if it's just the last 4 digits. No, I'm not doing that.
I actually had to buy 7 Butterfingers because I've accidentally used my discount card at my work. So that brought my price down. I was like, I need 1 more.
Like, anytime you buy 6 of any candy bar, you know the person at the gas station or the grocery store or whatever is just judging the hell out of you.
I've heard the play is you buy like the bags, right, with the assorted candy in it. So you don't have to just buy Butterfingers because Butterfingers suck. Yeah, so you can actually get like the crunch bars and stuff.
I don't mind Butterfingers actually, but like, yeah, it probably. And I saw on there that you could buy the bag of them, like Crackle and Nestle, all that different stuff. And I was like, yeah, I should probably buy that. But it wasn't me. My wife was out, and I was just like, oh, shit. Hey, on your way home, can you pick me up 6 Butterfingers?
Oh, you played it off on her.
Yeah, and I was like, don't ask. It's a Final Fantasy XIV mount thing. So if you haven't done it, by the way, this is our Final Fantasy XIV news segment. So
that's it.
If you haven't done your Butterfingers promotion, it is live. The website is live. You can go ahead and get your Sprout mount in a disgusting chocolate color. I am like one of the only people in my house that actually doesn't mind Butterfinger. So I had 6 candy bars that I didn't have to worry about any of my 3 children stealing. So that was nice.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. But God, I don't know if I'm ever going to eat one again after watching Tark eat one. Damn, that looked painful.
All for the bit. All
for the bit. It's all about the comedy. All right, so here's what we're gonna do, gentlemen. Tark, you're joining us. You didn't last time, but you hadn't played yet. So now that you play Final Fantasy TCG, makes a little more sense to have you on here. But we've kind of got all the perspectives covered, right? We've got the far end of the spectrum, competitive playing with Adam and myself. We've done it for years now, all that type of stuff. And then we've got maybe a newer player in Tarkoth who's been playing for like a month or two. So I think we kind of bring all the perspectives to some of the new cards, whether that be questions, like if you have a question on, fine, throw it out there because somebody may have it, or just your thoughts on, how this changes things or adds to what you're doing as a new player. Adam, of course, you and I will bring the hardcore veteran aspect to it on how it may shift the meta and things like that in various ways. We're going to go through the legends. I did bring, although, a few honorable mentions. They're not legend rarity, but I definitely think they're cards that are worth a little nod and a little discussion. And if we skipped your favorite hero or favorite rare or common or whatever, apologies. I don't want this to be 9 hours long. We're not going through every single card. Just because we didn't bring it up doesn't mean we think it sucks. So let's be clear about that one right off the bat. All right, we got to start. We're just going to take them in elemental order, gentlemen. So first up, we've got Axstar, a 4-drop fire forward at 8,000 power. When Axstar enters the field, choose one card with X-Burst in your damage zone. You may trigger its X-Burst effect. This effect is put on the stack. And at damage 3, when Axstar enters the field, you may search for one category FFBE, Brave Exvius character, other than card name Axstar, and add it to your hand. So 4-drop 8K, nothing, terribly special there. Yeah. But, Adam, we do get to see, for the first time ever in the game, a card interact with the damage zone. Not just a count of, if you're on damage 2 or damage 5 or damage 6 or Cecil breaking a forward of cost equal to or less than the amount of damage, but literally interacting with the specific cards in your damage zone. What'd you think when you saw this one for the first time?
I think it's pretty nutty, honestly. Given like how much fire has that symbol at the top right of their cards, he usually gets his effect off, and then having a second effect on top of the fact that his power level is on curve.
Yep.
Kind of makes them really, really strong. So, I've commentated a couple events now for Opus 13, so I've seen this guy quite a bit.
Yeah, we're seeing him particularly, as you mentioned, like in Fire already, an X-Bursty deck to begin with. But usually now in Fire Lightning, which kind of doubles the pleasure, doubles the fun with the X-Burst counts because of all the Odins and Ifrits and just the things you start stacking on there. It should be noted, though, for ruling purposes, by the way, the X-Burst, when you pop a damage card and it gives you an X-Burst, that action or ability cannot be responded to. It does its own stack and resolves, and then you can start a new stack outside of that. This works a little differently. Yes, you are choosing an X-Burst that is in your damage zone, but it does not fire as if it were an X-Burst. It goes on. They're very specific in the wording here in that this effect is put on the stack to tell you that this is not a X-Burst stack. This is a regular stack. So Axstar can choose the card from the damage zone, that ability goes off and can be responded to. But also interesting on this topic, and I think Adam already knows where I'm going, it is not considered the same ability that the card that triggered it normally is considered. So if it's considered, it's not considered an auto ability, for example. It's not considered a summon if it was a 5-drop Odin that you opted to select here. So although it can be responded to, there's no real meaningful way to cancel the item that is being pulled off of the X-Burst, because you can't, use Edward to cancel a summon to negate the effect. You can't break Y'shtola in response and cancel the auto ability. Now, you could break Y'shtola to cancel Axtar's choosing of that card and get the same cancellation effect. But if you let Axtar choose, Adam, you really don't have a meaningful way of canceling this thing, but you could, in theory, respond to it, unlike when it went off as an X-Burst.
Yeah, you have to respond to it in like other ways, like you alluded to. You have to like either make like the targets illegal or cancel his auto before he even gets to pick, which kind of makes it weird. And then like you said too, when you start combining with other elements too, like sometimes that 1/7-drop Odin win you the game, but now you can do it twice and can get kind of out of control. I think this card's pretty nutty, so he's really good.
And a 4-drop 8K on par, but a damage 3 nets you back at least 2 CP, if not a very specific Brave Exvius forward. That's pretty damn good, Tark. Pretty damn good.
I like it. It did, that ability really popped to me. I was like, I don't know all this stuff, but the fact that you can do another X-Burst off your damage, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, when you start running, we already saw, decks that were capitalizing on X-Bursts to begin with.
Sure.
But now when you get a chance to double fire them, and presumably you're running multiple Axstars, and presumably your Axstar is going to get killed at some point, and so you will play another one. I mean, and you really don't. Aggressive decks don't make you nervous anymore, because you probably want to get in 5 damage on yourself before you really get started on this with this type of deck.
Yeah, and that's like the one negative to him, right? Is he's a reactive play. So if your opponent can force you to try to be the more proactive player, and you're playing cards like this and other cards that play like him, you're gonna be put in like awkward situations where you're just gonna play this guy for 4 and do nothing, and that doesn't feel great.
Or you're gonna get you're gonna get stacked up against and go from 2 to fatal,
Or
all of a sudden, because they know they need to push the edge. Yeah, got to rate it 1 to 10, right? And in my 1 to 10 here, I'm kind of imagining, gentlemen, not only are our personal likes on whether we would play the card, whether it fits our play styles, but also, how much of take into effect or into consideration how much of an impact you think it actually brings to the current meta, the current competitive environment. I gotta put this at probably about an 8. Most of that is its impact on the competitive environment. It's just not really my personal play style. While I do play around with decks that may be a little X-Burst heavy, and I'm trying to take 3 or 4 damage so that the deck can really start getting value, I really don't like the how reactionary this is. It simply becomes a 4-drop that grabs me a card unless I'm willing to literally, in some cases, leave an open board for a while to encourage damage or self-damaging. And that's just not generally my play style, but it does change the competitive environment in my mind when the damage zone is no longer a dead zone against every opponent. So I'm gonna put it at about an 8. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's more of a 9 for me.
That's fair.
Just it fits like my kind of criteria for what I like. Like I like playing the gentleman's game, right? I like playing backups, and this kind of makes my opponent play that game a little bit, because if you're hitting me and you're putting things on the board, now I have things I can do with this card and some other cards in the set. So I kind of like that play style, and I've always liked fire, and I think this dude's just a really strong fire card. So yeah, for me it's a 9.
What about you, Tark, as a newer player? What does this bring for you?
I was gonna put it a 9, but really, you're explaining how it needs to be used as a reactionary. You got to have something in your damage zone to really get the most out of this. I'm with you. I don't necessarily like that play style, so I'm going to put it at an 8 with you, Mike.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, I mean, 8s and 9s, nothing to sneeze at.
No,
Nothing to sneeze at, particularly for a Fire Legend, which, if we're being honest, they haven't really been super grand over the past few sets. We've had some, Braska's Final Aeon and stuff like that, kind of changing the games at those times, but Fire leading the way with a whole new effect, basically. All right, so moving on into Ice, we come up with Physalis, a 5-drop 9K forward from Brave Exvius. And when Physalis enters the field or attacks, if your opponent has 3 cards or less in their hand, select one of the 2 following actions. If your opponent has no cards in hand, select both of them. Choose one character, dull it, freeze it, and draw a card are the 2 options. Also has a special for a discard and 2 ice. Choose one forward, deal it 10k damage. This forward's controller discards 1 card from their hand. And I gotta say, as far as Legends goes, I think this is the one that, at least initially, there's one we're going to get to later that I think is in the same category, so I wouldn't say exclusively by itself. But Physalis has made basically an impact on any deck that is running Ice right now. Whether it was Mono Ice, whether it's Ice X, even if you're just splashing Ice, I'm seeing this in a lot of places because I think it does give Ice a few helping hands in some areas where it struggles a little bit, Tark.
Again, my experience is not too much. I'm going to reference my Neo X death math with you. So restricting how much you have on the field, restricting how many cards you have. Awesome. This card is just awesome. I love it.
It is can be a bit of a pain to deal with. I mean, Ice historically, Adam, doesn't really have big bodies. It's got a couple 9s throughout its history, but big bodies. Here's another 9. Card draw, which is something that Ice doesn't have a whole ton of, so definitely benefits there. Obviously, Ice has the whole dull and freeze aspect of it, but this particular one is character, not isolated to forwards, like some historically well-run Ice cards, Genesis, things like that target forwards. This allows you to target backups or even monsters if you need to. And then a special that gets basically any big body that you play without some buffs off the board, all in a nice little 5 CP package.
Yeah, I think this card reads really well.
Yeah.
It does a lot of things. There's really not any bad text on the card. I think the only reason why I maybe sound like I'm going to be a little bit lower than you guys is Ice feels a little weak right now, just from what I've been noticing. Again, I don't play as much as I used to, but I still do watch and kind of keep up with stuff. But it just doesn't. And then so I feel like in Ice X decks, when they're having like certain strategies, this still might have like a little bit of trouble finding spots. But it's not like it's a bad card. Like I said, I think every piece of text on it reads well. And obviously, like specials get better over time too. Like if they ever print another one of this card, just makes the special stronger. And I mean, that's not really a special to sneeze at. Like it's gonna kill something and then make you discard a card.
Yeah, I mean, it gets rid of your opponent's most powerful forward and costs you at minimum 2 CP from your hand, if not something important that you were hanging on to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
by the way, all of our images today are courtesy of FFDecks.com. If you play Final Fantasy TCG and you haven't used FFDecks.com, please do. Incredible site as far as examining the meta, finding out what's out there if you like net decking or if you like starting with a net deck and doing modifications. Just tremendous resource. Free for you to use, but of course, support them via their various donation circles if you have a couple of bucks to throw their way. So shout out to FF Decks. We're using their images today rather than the camera overhead shot just because I wanted to speed today's show up a little bit. I'm going to give this one, I think I'm going to stick at 8 for this one too. Adam, I kind of agree with you. There is 0 bad text on here. But I do think it adds to any deck that is running ice. The days of mono ice, well, to be fair, the days of mono anything are basically behind us with a few exceptions, but they're more tribal exceptions than elemental exceptions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm gonna put it at an 8. I think it's not earth shattering. It doesn't change anything, but it is a solid addition to a deck that is running ice. So I'm gonna park it right at an 8. What about you, Tark?
I was gonna put it as a 9 only because I don't know the full breadth of ice. So
That's fair, yeah.
the card on its own just screams to me that this is a central part of this deck, and it's looks great.
Here's where the low score comes in. I'm gonna
Yeah.
guess a 7. I'm gonna guess a 7.
I'm gonna give it a 6. Here's
Ooh,
Wow.
why. So only reason why, really, I think over time, like as you said, because mono elements aren't really as strong anymore, with the exception of like the tribal decks and maybe like fire. So because all the powerful discard stuff really exists in mono ice, and just having little nitpicky discard effects here and there where you don't really get to pick, like Zidane. Like Zidane's strong because I get to see your hand, right? And
Mhm.
then tell you what to discard. Whereas this, my opponent gets to pick what they discard. So typically, like a smarter player is going to hold on to things. They're going to have big hands on top of the fact that you draw 2 cards every turn. So it's really hard to kind of get certain cards out of your opponent's hand, and typically they're going to keep multiple options. But you will get in situations where your opponent's holding on to like 1 or 2 cards, and getting rid of that card is going to be like backbreaking. So, and this card will still be able to do that. But there's a lot of ice cards that can do that. So I don't know. I just think there are other ice cards that can do this.
Let me try and talk you from a 6 to a 7, because
Okay.
I think one thing we haven't really focused on here that might do it though is this is a recurring effect. It's not just one and done on entry. If you can get swinging with Physalis, you're going to get that effect multiple times, whether it's just a dull freeze, whether it's just a draw, or whether they happen to have no cards and you're getting both. That is a recurring threat. It is value under fire if your opponent does not get rid of it. And you know what? If you're running in this in your deck, you probably don't mind them using a bunch of resources to get rid of this, because this isn't a win con card.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a weak card at all. I mean, maybe a 6 is a bit harsh, but they have cards like Soryu, right, and things like that that also have like recurring effects.
Right, but
I mean,
don't immediately impact the board either.
True. Yeah, exactly. Like he is a lot slower for sure. So I mean, yeah, I mean when you put it that way, it definitely makes sense. It's just I feel like it's more of a knock on ice maybe than the card itself, which is probably unfair.
Damn. Poor
I just feel
Physalis.
like like this card just in general has gotten weaker. I mean, it had its highs. I was there when
Yes, you
when
did.
when it was king of everything. But it's definitely, it just seems with the power, like the draw power everything else has now, just innately, coupled with the fact that we're already drawing 2 cards every turn, and then that just seems still like one of Ice's identities. It might be something they need to think about. Is all. But it's definitely going to be a card. Like I feel like whenever you build a like deck with Ice, like you said, you're probably going to always look at this card. So maybe a 6 is harsh. Maybe a 7's more right.
I tried, Tark.
But
I tried to get him to a 7.
And I just keep thinking this plus Neo X Death. You got to keep stuff in your hand, but then also stuff's just disappearing off your board. It's like
yeah, but 11 CP on a lot of things is going to be really impressive.
Yeah,
Just as a counter argument, yeah.
Next up, we got the Wind Legend 2-drop 4,000 power Shara X Burst. When Shara enters the field, choose one card name Ritz in your break zone, add it to your hand. When a category FFTA character other than Shara enters your field, place a Viera counter on Shara, and has the action ability dull and remove one Viera counter from Shara, and you'll get to choose one category FFTA character. It gains, this character cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities until the end of turn. So, yeah. Adam, Tark, I'm going to let you go first. Because, I'm just going to let you go first.
I guess this really depends on the strength of the tribe, not necessarily the element. How strong is FFTA?
They have a
Well,
pretty strong package.
yeah, there's a pretty strong package. One package in particular, pretty damn strong, kind of tore up the early Opus 12 scene when that came out. Got a little weaker later as people started figuring out how to play around it and expecting it to be in certain things. But yeah, when you talk about the Marsh Ritz 5-drop, 3-drop, activate on swings package that was introduced in Opus 12, Shara gets a lot of value in that package and provides a hell of a lot of protection for ultimately Ritz is who you want to keep on the field.
Yeah, you got a tank basically. I'm gonna protect you. I'm gonna be your blocker. This is if they're as strong as you're saying, this is gonna add to that and really give them some shielding to do their work.
Adam, for me, I was never a Marsh Ritz player. I kind of didn't enjoy the deck. I'm very I'm not huge on one-trick pony decks. And although you can do creative things with Marsh Ritz to support it, it basically still comes down to if they have answers to your 3 Ritzes, the game's over and you're probably going to lose if they happen to have the answers. Shara definitely makes it harder to play against. Now it's that Ritz in the break zone could go to hand, could go straight to field. You can't, before this, if Ritz hit the break zone, you were like, all right, they've got a marsh or they're going to search a marsh, and I need to be ready to have an answer to Ritz as soon as that hits the field. Now there's some confusion on what do you have the need to do you need that Mist Dragon to get rid of the break zone so they can't take it to hand? Are they going to bring it to field and I can address it there because I don't have the Mist Dragon? I don't know. Then the protection is a little bit scary. On the downside, of course, 4,000 power, not that hard to get rid of if you need to.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all the stuff he said. Again, I don't think this card's bad. But so I think the main power of like the FFTA cards really now, at least from what I've seen. So like you said, the decks used to be more like we're playing Mars Ritz, like that's our game plan.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to there and that's how we're gonna kill you. Whereas I feel like now when you see Marsh Ritz, which is it's still a thing, it's more like, yeah, we have this deck, but here's 6 slots and we're running Marsh Ritz.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, with the launch of Opus 13, yes,
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, and I think if you can afford to run a couple of these and it works with your like what the rest of your deck, I could see that. But I think the issue that Char is gonna have is can she fit in those decks? Because 50 cards sounds like a lot, but when you're playing 13 sets worth of cards and you have to narrow it down to 50, it's really hard to do that. Especially when we're talking about Marsh Ritz, where we're running 3 copies of each. That's 6 cards out the door, right there. So anything else that supports that package, now we're putting more into that package. So then it's like, how hard do we go to FFTA? Like, how much makes sense? And I think the harder you go into FFTA, the more sense Char makes, right? Because she has this extra protection. She gets the extra like Vieira counters and stuff. But I think in most decks, she's going to play for free as a 4K, get a Ritz back, and maybe protect her once. Probably is more like what she's going to do, which isn't bad. But I don't think she's ever going to be like a 3 of in a lot of like competitive decks, which is more where my mind kind of goes.
Right.
So I'm probably not going to be quite as high on her, or I don't know. Maybe you're not quite as high on her either, Mike. But that's kind of where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I'm not very high on this one. That just comes from I was never really a Marsh Ritz player to begin with. The deck just kind of annoyed me more than anything, so I certainly wasn't going to play it. Like I learned how to play against it. My bag always has a few meta decks in it, even if like I can't stand samurais or playing samurais. There's a typical samurai build in my deck because I've got to be able to play against it, right? So toss it to Adam when we're at locals and hey, run this against me type deal. Marsh Ritz was that for me. I'm going to score Shara at a 5. I don't think it really warps the meta in any meaningful way. Does it add to FFTA? Yeah, it does. Does it add at a 3 of in a deck? Probably not. Does it get you some stuff? Yeah, but honestly, I could think of if I were going to, and there is one deck I've been messing with that, to your point, Adam, has 6 FFTA slots in it, 3 Marsh, 3 Ritz. This has no home in that. And honestly, even if I was going to do a Marsh Ritz deck, there would be other things that I would probably consider over Shara. It is nice that you basically get it for free, right? Discard a Ritz, play Shara, take the Ritz back if in the worst case scenario, right? But I just feel like Y'shtola is going to provide me a little more value while still protecting the piece that I would probably use the Vieira counter to protect. Unsaganashi, and they have the flexibility to be thrown on anybody, not a specific FFTA character. To that point, same point though, a character does give you the ability to protect backups, which is an unusual ability right now for a forward to have. So I don't think it's totally useless, but I'm going to put it at a 5 for me, Tark.
Sounds fair with everything you said. And again, I'm not very familiar with that tribe and how it works. But yeah, very dependent on what it's got going on. Yeah, 5 sounds fair.
Adam?
Yeah, I'm right there with you with a 5. And then just to add on to what you said too, with Y'shtola, and those cards are instant, right? Like,
yeah,
you can play them and use them. Shara has to wait a turn typically, unless you have a way to give her haste before she dies. So because she has to dull.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think she only really works in like really dedicated Firewind FFTA, and I don't know how good that's going to be. But something to look forward. Like anytime they print more FFTA stuff, you always have to come back to this card. So.
Yeah, when you get the category on anything, it always will just get better. It may not be great right now, but it's always just going to get better. Moving on, now we have the Earth Legend, and that would be Leo. Hold on one second. Where's my couldn't remember where the hell my other shot was here. 1-drop Earth Legend forward, 3K power. When Leo enters the field, place 1 Kingdom counter on Leo for each category FFCC, that's Crystal Chronicles, character you control. For 1 CP and dulling Leo, you can remove X Kingdom counters from Leo and choose 1 forward other than card name Leo, light, or dark in your break zone. If the cost is X, play it onto the field. You can only use this ability during your turn and only once per turn. That's a lot of text. A lot of text for a 1-drop 3 CP forward. So obviously removal way easy on Mr. Leo.
Yeah.
But if you could start stacking those counters, I'm going to let you go first on this one, Adam. I'm just simply going to say I have played with Leo in multiple decks over the last month since, we've been able to play on Octagon, but the cards just came out last week physically here. Mm-hmm. But I have 2 decks that I am running Leo in right now. So I might have a bit of a favorable view on this one.
Okay, it sounds like I might bring your view down a little bit. So that's fine. I think this card.
I said I might.
I think this card is fun. I think it does a lot of cool things.
It does.
I think that there's just a lot of ways to mess with him, and on top of that, he's a little slow, which is weird because he costs 1. But like costing 1 kind of makes it a little awkward when you're playing in slower decks. You have to have like the backup down to play him out efficiently, and then you have to get him counters to get him going, and then you want to revive certain things. So it's and he's really easy to kill. Like if he ever gets to a certain point. But I mean, again, like if you let him go, he's going to do something really disgusting.
Oh yeah.
And the decks that play him are going to play him because they want to do something really stupid, right? They want to like use him to play something from their break zone. But he does have some limitations, right? Like he can't get light or dark cards. Kind of weird, but that's fine. I think a lot of cards like this always read like that. For some reason, they just don't like people doing stuff with lighter dark cards because they're just kind of innately more powerful for their cost.
Right, because and because of the limitation for play,
Also true, yeah.
They make them weird, a little stronger than normal.
Yep, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a cool card. I just think from a competitive standpoint, I think he's going to struggle a bit just because I think you have to devote some stuff to him. You could slide him into some really greedy decks maybe and kind of make people deal with a 1 CP that they might not want to deal with to try to revive some big guys, which I could see as being interesting. But again, it just comes back to that, like, there's 50 deck slots. Do I want to run this guy as part of the 50. Like, is he strong enough? Because like he needs a lot of other cards around him to really work, and he needs like more powerful stuff that's like in the break zone to function and to be a threat. So for that, I'm kind of a bit lower on him, but I think he's a fun card, like really cool design, and the art's pretty cool too.
Oh, the art for this entire series, like Leo and Chime and Pavlov, when they do the card King of Hearts stuff, it's been tremendous. What do you think, Tark?
He was a little confusing to me, but like Axstar, you really need to get into the game. You need to have a developed board for this. So I'm kind of iffy on him. He is low cost, but he's just like 3,000. That's like you sneeze at him and he goes away. So he's seems to be easy to take care of if he comes out. But you got to really make sure you get rid of him, because if you don't and you have a fully developed board, yeah, you could run into some problems if you don't take care of him right away.
All right, so let me sell you gentlemen on Leo a little. Leo is an Earth card, so I tried him out first in Earthwind, which I think was the obvious choice, right?
Yeah.
The Norshtallen Crystal Chronicles backup line, running it into to Lael from the Earth and fixing your colors, and then you've got the multiple wind ones, and you're probably running Althea in that deck and stuff like that. I'm going to tell you that basically every time I played Leo, he came out for 4, if not 5. Like with 4 counters on him, if not a 5th one, right? Because he does count himself.
Right.
So I never ran him out and let the counters build up later. I never got 2, right? I was always getting 4 and 5, and I never felt like I was waiting to play Leo. The Crystal Chronicles backup engine is so fast that I never once felt like I was stuck holding Leo waiting for more Crystal Chronicles characters. It was just, okay, there we go. Boom, 4 counters. Boom, 5 counters. And I'll tell you what, yeah, it kind of sucks. If you're running him in that, you probably like a Wind Earth, you probably aren't giving him haste in any meaningful or efficient way. So yes, I was waiting a turn. But there is nothing in this world that felt better than spending 1 and forcing you to spend 3 or more to get that out of there. I mean, that just feels good. Because whatever I put down in that same turn with Leo is totally 100% safe. It doesn't matter what the fuck I put out on the board with Leo. Whatever I put out on the board on that turn is going to survive till the next turn, because Leo immediately becomes number 1. Particularly if you want to get really splashy and go ahead and put something like White Tiger Nimbus into that Earth Wind deck just to grab it off of Leo and throw it in. And that only takes 3 CP, by the way. So I have had a blast with this card. Yes, it's gimmicky. I agree with you, Adam, that I don't know how much competitive play it will see, but I do believe it will see some. And it feels really good knowing that, Adam, you just had to spend 5 to get rid of this damn thing, because that's all you happened to have was the 5-drop Odin at full cost in your hand to get rid of my 1 CP forward. And oh, by the way, I also put down a 3-drop or a 4-drop behind it that's going to poke you this turn now. And if you don't have the answer, Pound Town, baby. You're in a lot of trouble right off the bat. I'm going to give this one a 7. A lot of that is personal flavor score. I like what this does. I like its effect, and not just in Wind Earth. That's just one example. But I got to dock it the 3 points off of 10, knowing that, yeah, he's a little gimmicky. He's a little combo-y. And so he's not going to see a ton of play or be meta shifting. But I definitely, all 7 for my love of Leo. I love this card. What you got, Adam?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 5. Just because, again, I'm coming more from like just the straight competitive aspect. And
that's fair. Yeah, that's
while I think you can make a deck that is competitive with Leo in it, I think
it's not competitive because Leo's
right.
in it.
No, yeah.
Right. Exactly. And he does like I think like you said it perfectly when you said like nothing feels better than like doing what he does, which I think is a cool design card. And if like that's what you want to do and you want to focus on that and have fun off it, I think you could totally do that. And I think that's what this card is more meant to do. There's a lot of legends like that.
Yeah.
It's just from a competitive standpoint, I don't think he's really making some deck stronger by existing. I think he just like you can slot him in and do some fun things. But you could probably put a lot of 3 cards or 2 cards there.
Medic saying
accomplish
looks
different
nice
things.
foiled out. It absolutely does. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks
great.
foiled.
The art on it is awesome. So.
Yeah. What you got, Tark? What's your score?
You swayed me. I was gonna give him a 5 as well, but you swayed me. I'm gonna give him a 6.
Oh yeah!
And now I kind of want to.
I got you one extra point, Leo. I got your back. I got your
I
back.
kind of want to build a FFCC deck just to play with.
Oh, it's really easy. It's really easy.
The backup line is busted. The backup line's busted.
Yeah,
I'm
the
not
backup line's
like,
totally broken. It's totally broken. 16 cards are locked in. You just need to find what other 34 you want to use.
You just figure out what colors they're in. One of them has to be wind. You pick Norstala, and you put the other FFCC backups from those colors in.
Yep.
And you're good.
Yeah, it's a little broken. A little bit broken. Let's see here. We've got lightning.
I thought of you.
Lightning. You know me. I love lightning. Let's see if I love this card though. We'll see. We've got Behemoth K, 5-drop, 9,000 power lightning forward. When Behemoth K is chosen by a forward's abilities, break that forward. When Behemoth K attacks, Behemoth K gains 2,000 power until the end of turn and deals 1 point of damage to your opponent. And at damage 5, Behemoth K gains haste. And when he's blocked, deal 1 point of damage to your opponent. What initial thoughts, Tark? You got this like shit-eating grin on your face. What do you?
He's just a big beastie boy. He's gonna hurt no matter which way you slide him. You don't do anything, you're gonna take a point of damage. You damage 5. You're gonna block him. You'll still take a point of damage plus the point of damage on top. It's just
exactly. You got to figure out how do I want to take 1 or take 2 is basically what you're figuring out when Behemoth swings.
Yeah, and then when he's at 5, it's like, okay, just either way, I'm gonna take 2 when you're at damage 5. It's like, yeah, he's a big beefy boy.
I mean 3,000, not 2,000. What did I say? 2,000.
You did say 2,000.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's 3,000. It's 3,000.
Yeah.
It's lucky I have chat here just to sit around and find my faults. I appreciate that. So 5-drop 9K in lightning, I was immediately a fan of. You know, we don't have very many of them. We've got a couple, but we don't have very many of them. So I was immediately a fan of. This is the card. Can I just say something about pre-releases? And Adam, I don't know if you agree here. Tark, you haven't been to one yet, but
I think I know where you're going, but continue.
I hate the fact that like most sets have one absolutely busted ass pre-release card. That if you get it in your pre-release kit, you make a deck of 40 cards minimum, you hard mull to get that card, and if you put it out, 90% of the time you're going to win. We saw that with Feel Thanos a few sets back. We saw that with Neo Eggs Death in the last set. Behemoth K was that card in this pre-release set. I got my ass handed to me hard in pre-release this past weekend by my son, by the way. By my son. He was dealing some damage on me. I start to turn the board. I'm in a good spot. Behemoth K comes down. I'm dead. I mean, I'm dead. You know, I've got removal for him, but it cost me the forwards because that's, you know, I had Jake in my hand and okay, I'm going to hit him for Jake. It's Arden and Opus 8. Yeah, Medic. That's another one. And I mean, they're not all as bad as Neo Egg's death, right? Or Feel Thanos, who immediately get banned in title and limited formats almost the day after pre-release is over. But he was still pretty bad. At least you could deal with him. But it was never clean, and if you got him on the board, it was pretty much a guaranteed win. I don't like how that seems to be a trend every set. There seems to be one.
Yeah, I mean, I can read him. I haven't played limited in a while, and pre-release is like also the worst limited because of just how much more limited you are.
Yep.
But a good limited set kind of has answers to everything. The thing is like this guy, just the first line of text already cuts off half the answers he has, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and there are answers in this set. Like I said, it's not quite as bad as Feel Thanos, right? Who basically had no answers in that pre-release. In this one, you do have, 5-drop Odin is in this set. That will nuke him nicely. You do have forwards like Jake, which was, how I was going to remove him until he got buffed in response. I was like, fuck me, I'm dead. My son was like, good game. I was like, no, it's not. I went and smoked. Yeah. And I also think like I'm a mono lightning guy or a lightning earth guy more recently because monos kind of suck. As much as I thought I would like this card, and I do like it, I don't know if it's one I'd run all that often. It's definitely powerful. And if you have somebody on 5 and they don't know you're running this if you have them on 5 damage and they don't know you run this in your deck, I mean, it's an instant game winner if you can slap it down and give it haste through some other method if you're not at 5 damage yourself. Because now they just have no choice. He's going to swing and do damage, and then I have to block, which does the 7th point of damage to me. Yep. In Lightning Wind, I was messing around with dropping Chelenka, the backup, on this one to go ahead and let it attack a second time. So now it could ultimately, in some cases, do 4 damage on a turn if you were at damage 5, which is disgusting. I think there's room for fun here, but ultimately, I do think it's 100% gimmick. That's not to say it's not going to surprise some people and will be in competitive decks that win, but I think it's more for that than just like we talked about the last card. It's not winning because Behemoth's in the deck, but it could win with Behemoth in the deck. That said, I am messing with a deck that is fully committed to the double attackers. And he's performing well in there. No, I'm not going to lose the glasses on a show where I have to see the cards. That's not going to happen. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I think this card is extremely powerful. For a lot of the things that you said. He doesn't really need any other card to be paired with him to work. He just works by himself, and when he's at damage 5, he works more.
Yep.
The other thing that you kind of alluded to, but you didn't like flat out say it. So now, whenever you see purple cards across the board, you have to almost assume this guy's in the list.
True.
Yeah.
Or else you might just die. They might not be playing him. You don't even know. Like they might run 0. But if they're at damage 5, which it seems to be where a lot of lightning decks want to be at this point. There's other cards that do it too.
Yeah, you're usually running Kujas and stuff like that to pop the damage on yourself because they happen to deal with other cards that we're gonna talk about in a minute.
Right. So like he just kind of lines up with like everything they're already trying to do, and then again like just the threat of him, just the fact that he exists affects gameplay.
Yep.
Like he doesn't even have to be in either deck. Because, again, you're playing someone in a tournament, you don't have their list unless, like, you've already made top cut and lists have been, like, put out there and you know what you're playing around. You know, if you run into a lightning deck, Swiss round 2, Swiss round 3, or whatever, you have to just assume that, like, this guy's in there in some shape or form. You don't know if it's 1, you don't know if it's 2, 3. And he's just, I mean, he reads like one of the better finishers in the game, just in general.
Yeah.
You have to deal with them immediately, especially if they're on damage 5. You have to deal with them immediately, like, or else it's just gonna get bad. And if it's a close game, like you might just be dead. So, yeah, I think he's absurdly powerful. But yeah, I mean, he's not really to me like my kind of style of play. He's not really an exciting card. He's not really doing anything that interesting to me. But he is like and aggressive players like Wet Dream.
Yeah.
Like you just slam them down and it's like deal with that.
I got to give it a 10. 1, I'm a lightning guy. 2, I do like aggression, and although he isn't my favorite card, he's in my color and he fits my play style, even though he wouldn't be in every lightning deck that I run. And I do think it doesn't warp the meta, but it makes you, if you're aware of the meta, I think you, like you said, you always have to prep for the possibility. And I think that hits all the marks. It's not my favorite card, but I give it a 10. Tark?
Gonna give him a 9.5. The only reason is what Kronos just said. He's not flashy. He is just a big beefy boy. He is a hammer, and he will put you down. He will put the nail in your coffin. So 9.5. He's just a big brick. He's a big boy.
Adam?
Yeah, I'm going with 10 too. I think basically everything you said, Mike, is pretty much why I give him a 10 also. It's just good.
Yeah, it's just good. And sometimes that's all you gotta be, right? Next up, Legend Backup Ovelia. 3-drop water backup. The water backup. I like this card. I like this card, gentlemen. Just warning you right now, I like this one.
Oh, you're gonna be mad at me.
3-drop water backup. When a category FFT forward you control is put from the field into the break zone, draw a card. This effect will only trigger once per turn. As a special for a discard and dull, choose a forward you control until the end of the turn. It gains haste. And when this forward is put from the field into the break zone, play this forward from the break zone onto the field. Dull. So a little bit of self-recursion for the forward at that point. Tark, I don't mean to put too fine a point on it, but as a newer player, I'm going to ask you to go first on this one, simply because I think your thoughts will be much briefer than Adam and mine.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's really all I got for it. You get to draw cards. That's nice.
Adam,
Can't get special all too much, but I mean, solid.
All right.
It's
Adam,
solid.
why do you hate this card?
So I think it has a classic name issue. I think the original Avelia, mainly just for the fact that she costs 2 and is also named Avelia, ends up being the better card in my opinion. Not that this card doesn't do anything that's like kind of cool and strong. I guess if you're like really like all in into FFT, this card makes more sense, right? But even still, it might not, because all the FFT guys are pretty much knights. So you might want the extra 1k that the other 2CP Avelia gives you. But I kind of look at this card from what I've seen people playing, and a lot of times it's getting paired with the new Agrius, which is a really strong card. But I just think the 2CP does more for that Agrius than this one does too. Granted, this special can win you a game for sure. And the card draw is always nice because if you lose an Agrius and then you just draw a card, play another Agrius, that feels pretty good. I just think the 3 makes it a bit more awkward to play, especially when you have like all these searchers that are searching princesses. You have like the princess searcher. I've seen it too many times where you play like the 4CP to search. You either get like the 1CP Sarah or you get the 2CP Avelia, and it's just clean. It's more clean to get those 2 cards than it is to get this card. And then I have to discard another card to play this card. And then, I just don't know how many of those decks are really playing enough FFT to take advantage of the first effect. But again, if you're playing like Title or like something with a way more FFT cards, I could see how the first effect would be really good. I just think while way more boring, the old card just is cleaner and has more advantages to me.
All right, so I don't really have an argument against your efficiency of the play line.
Yeah.
Which I think was the primary argument you were making there, is that not only is the 2CP's effect maybe valid or maybe not valid, but it's card name Avelia, it's job princess. That's really what the Agrius is looking for. And some of the other knights and FFT cards are looking for as well. And yeah, it's very efficient to get a 2 out after you've just popped a 4 or put a 2 out on that same turn or the previous turn.
Right.
However, I think this is stronger than the 2-drop. For ultimate long term, yes, CP efficiency, you are 100% right. I don't have an argument there. The only, I guess, counterpoint I would make is that you are probably going Princess Sarah back up. Sarah back up into Princess Sarah for the next turn, and then playing Ovelia on a subsequent turn. I don't know. I mean, unless I'm feeling like I'm going to go against something super aggressive, I don't know if I would ditch that card to play it the turn you're talking about there. I'd probably just sock 2 backups and wait for Ovelia on the following turn.
Oh yeah,
here's what
that might be right. Yeah.
Here's what I like
ahead,
to
sorry.
do. I like 3 of these and 1 of the 2-drop. I actually don't mind having 4 Ovelia in the deck because I do think there is validity to what you're saying. There are matchups where I might just want the Knights to be 1k bigger, right? If I'm running into a beefy Earth Body deck or something like that, where that is going to make a difference. So I will run 1 of the 2-drop. Because to me, at worst, it's another special. It's another way for me to pop the special on this one. But 90% of the time, I'm playing this one over that 2-drop. So it would be a 3 of the 3-drop and 1 of the 2-drop in the deck. If I run the 2-drop at all, by the way. I simply prefer this. I think the interactions across the board, for maybe that small difference in efficiency of play line in the early game, I just think the value's too much there. Yes, the Agrius is going to get the payoff of this too, but there are other cards that are going to get the payoff here as well. And being able to draw a card, even if you aren't, I don't even think you need to be that deep down the rabbit hole of FFT to get at least 3 card draws in a game. 2 to 3 card draws in a game.
No, you don't. Yeah.
And that's 4 to 6 CP that I did nothing to gain except have the ability to threaten this special the entire damn game. So I'm going to disagree with you. I think the card is better than you think it is. I think you're going to see it a lot in competitive play. Anything that's doing water and is even remotely thinking of running Agrius, I think will have this 90% of the time versus the 2-drop. I'm going to give it a 9. I'm this close to giving it a 10, by the way. It's just like this close. I think the only inhibiting factor of me giving it a 10 is that I don't think it's all that meta warping, except for the fact that we're going to see a lot of FFT Knights for the next few weeks until people get bored with it or people just start beating the hell out of it with other things and people get bored with the archetype. So, yeah, I'm going to put it at a 9 out of 10. And, yeah, Schnell, of course it's Adam. Adam's hosts all the time. He's
here every week.
He's here every week on the Relic Grind, talking about Final Fantasy XIV and whatnot.
Nick tunes in for FFTCG though, so I understand.
No, Nick plays on Octagon with me on Mondays when we do FFTCG.
Nick's always on Octagon, man.
Oh,
he lives there.
Yeah. No, I speak very highly of Schnell. Love Schnell. And anybody in chat, that is Schnell, who we play on, one of the people that we consistently see on Octagon. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 9. Go ahead, Kronos.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4.
Wow!
Because I really think the other Veli is better. And I think that because they're both
you rated this below Shara.
I think it's worse. I really do.
Wow.
I do. I think it sets up. So, like, I just think 2 CP backups are, like, CP efficiency and being that clean, at least to me, like, I think that matters a ton.
I would agree if it was not a water card.
And also, I don't even know, like, how many you want to even run, really. And so the thing is to really use this S, I'd have to, like you said, I'm running at least 3, maybe 4 Avelias. And if I'm playing the 2 CP now, I just have 3 cards in my deck that are just 2 water CP each. I mean, I'll eat crow on it, dude. If you want to come back a month from now and it's like winning tournaments, you can tell me you told me so. I promise you. But like to me, the other Avelia
Come
is
back
one
and
of
be
the
like, hey, guess who topped that last one? Yeah, Schnell and I were 1-2. Guess what we were both playing? FFT Knights
Dude,
with the 3-drop of Velia. Eat
if
it.
Nick Schnell is playing water cards, I will eat a crow on stream.
Wow.
That is definitely not happening. So
Can we make it a crow in the shape of Butterfingers that are
but no, I think it just sets up like the play. So I know you were saying like you would want to wait to play Avelia, but the reason I think you play all three out, like the second turn, so you search and then you play both, because then the next turn you're able to really efficiently play Agrius, which I think is what a lot of people are doing.
Right.
And it just sets up that play so clean. And I've just seen that happen so many times now, just from the little bit that I've commentated events. That play just wrecks people. That new Agrius coming down, doing her effect, and being a 10k is really hard to get rid of. And then it also, like, if you're playing like the old Rams or whatever, like it kind of gets the buff of there. But I think you're mainly just playing her because she's a cheap backup named Avelia that happens to buff. And while I do think this S effect can win you a game, like I said, I don't like committing that many cards to a backup. I mean, it depends. Because backups sharing the same names just affects way more than like a forward sharing the same name.
Wow. I mean, I knew you were going to score it lower than me. I didn't think you were going to put it below Shara. Damn.
Yeah.
Tark, what do you got?
I'm just gonna try to, put my arms out and keep you two apart from, throwing.
I'm just
gonna
gonna
go in the middle.
Split the difference.
Like, yeah, I'll just go 6. I see it's a solid backup. I like drawing cards, so that enhances that. That's pretty awesome for stuff that's gonna get whacked into the break zone. And then the special is nice. I think it's pretty solid.
Wow.
I'm the middleman.
4.
Sorry,
I was not prepared. I was not prepared.
In a future episode of the Relic Grind,
right?
Adam will be eating crow.
I mean, yeah, I'll gladly do it, man. If it starts taking down tournaments, Mike could lead the podcast with "I told you so." You can throw it right in my face.
Breaking news. Next up, we hit the Light and Dark Legends, starting with Materia. 1 CP, 2K forward. You may play 2 or more light characters onto the field. When Materia enters the field, you may pay X. When you do so, search for 1 light forward of cost X, play it onto the field. When a light forward other than Materia you control is put from the field into the break zone, draw a card. This effect will only trigger once per turn. All right, so now we get into the light and dark, and obviously at 2 CP, this thing in a swift breeze is taken off of your field. But very, very interesting effect here, Adam. What are your initial thoughts looking at it? Knowing that Spiritus right behind it, we'll kind of move through these two quickly because Spiritus plays basically the same type of style. It's just different from the draw a card effect. We'll get to it in a second.
Yeah, it's an interesting card. I think you can do some cool stuff with it. It's just for like how long I've played competitive. It's the more light and dark cards you end up putting. Like again, like I go back to like efficiency, right? Like if I'm gonna go back to like kind of the old days, I guess the old days. Like the reason Camelot
the old days was, for a game that's 3 years old.
It's not that old, but I was playing it for back when it first started. But yeah, it's not really that old. I used air quotes. But the reason you played it was because it was kind of efficient, right? It got the card out of your deck, and this kind of does that too, which is nice. But yeah, like you said, you breathe on it, it dies, but it only costs 1, and it does play the card onto the field, which is nice. I don't have to like search for it and then pay for it. It's just I don't like putting that many light and dark cards into my deck, and I think at this point with the introduction of like dual element cards, I see even less light and dark cards unless they're just like game shattering, like unless you're building a deck around like Neo X-Death and you're playing at turn 1 and you're like deal with this. But then the problem with that is Neo X-Death even runs into the same problems like old dark cards ran into, where like if you don't play them when you want to and you draw them at the wrong time, it feels real bad if you don't have a way to get rid of them.
I know about
that. Yeah,
yes, you do. Live really on Octagon, you know about that.
So I think Materia is kind of putting you in a rabbit hole I'm not really sure is good right now. But if that strategy ever becomes good and running all these light cards is a good thing, it could be good now. It could just be something I haven't explored. She will be strong. I just don't think it's right now, at least just from what I've seen. And I've seen some people try some stuff and it looks cool. But I just feel like it has too much of a chance to brick for me to be like super high on it.
So I kind of take the thought process on this one of, if your win con is a light or dark forward, have to be on the board. Absolutely must be on the board. Then both the Materia and the Spiritus are no-brainers. They're absolute no-brainers. You know, basically the only penalty you're suffering is if you draw Materia before you draw your light forward, it's going to cost you 1 extra CP to get that light forward on the board that you wanted, because you got to pay for Materia first. Same thing with Spiritus. There are damn few of those decks where a light or a dark card is the win con or, you know, what's going to save you. But in those scenarios, rather limited, awesome. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I also got to say I might be messing with this. Materia more than Spiritus in a Lightning Earth Rampair deck that's running Regis and Kefka to break 3 forwards and 3-drop Maya, who gets you some special love when a light character leaves the field as well, and Citra. So, yeah, I might be messing with this, and we'll see if it's like Christmas Land material and goes nowhere. I do like this. I think I will be one of the few playing it. I don't think you're going to see this or Spiritus in too many deck lists competitively, unless there is a vital component of that deck that requires the light or dark forward you need to be out on the field. And yeah, Medic in chat, your Eldnarsh deck, yes, you absolutely run one of these in there. No problem. No problem. Well, not this one, obviously. You would need Spiritus, but wait, I can't remember. Eldnarsh is dark. Yeah.
Eldnarsh dark.
So yeah, you would use Spiritus. What do you think, Tark? I mean, I know as a newer player, this one kind of might be hard for you to gauge because this is pretty niche.
It is pretty niche, but you know, I smashed you with that Neo X-Death Shikari deck, and this was the Spiritus that I was supposed to be using. I had to use that backup one in place because Octagon didn't have it. I'd like Spiritus more than Materia personally, because I played that deck.
Yeah, and we're going to show, while you're talking, I'm going to show Spiritus here too. We'll kind of just score them both at the same time.
Yeah, because they're pretty similar. You know, one effect is drawing a card, the other's smashing a forward. So I felt it gave, you know, if you go ahead and you take care of Neo X Death like you're supposed to, you're going to get punished for it as it leaves. So that's why I liked Spiritus on that. So
yeah, taking a look at Spiritus here, same effect, pay X to go grab a dark forward. But when a dark forward other than Spiritus you control is put from the field in the break zone, choose up to 1 forward, remove it from the game. So instead of card draw, you're removing a forward. Could be your own. I mean, it doesn't stipulate that it has to be your opponent's there. That would be taking niche and making it super, super niche. But important to point out that it could be done. Going first here, I kind of got to give these ones a 5. I might actually rate them below Shara a little bit and put them at a 4 or 4.5. I think Shara, you know, not being light or dark has an edge up on these. And while I do appreciate how cool these are, yes, I am personally messing with one. That's where it's getting most of these points. There's such a slim fit. Mm-hmm. Like, how many times have you seen the Materia and Spiritus backups? You see them once in a blue moon, but normally it's Chaos and Cosmos, right? I think these are going to be kind of the same, except for those oddball decks where Schnell's doing something really stupid and I don't see it coming because nobody in their right mind could see it coming, and all of a sudden he plays Spiritus, and I'm going to be like, what the hell is he doing? Oh, shit, I'm dead. Yeah. But besides that, yeah, I'm going to put these at a 4. I'll put these at a 4. What you got, Tark? And again, Tark, I apologize. I know these two are going to be hard for you as a newer player to score.
No, I wanted to use this card in that Neo Exdeath Chicory deck, but I just couldn't.
By the way, you're a terrible person
I had to use the old one.
Learning how to play Final Fantasy TCG and then jumping to a Chicory XYZ Neo Exdeath deck. You're just a terrible person in general. You should be ashamed, and you should write letters of apology to your family.
Or a letter of apology to you too, or?
Oh no, I don't mind losing. That's fine. I don't mind.
Okay. Well, then why am I writing letters?
Because you're still a terrible person.
Just because don't know what happens on Octagon doesn't need to leave.
Just
Octagon.
Because I don't mind losing doesn't mean you're not a terrible person. So what score are you giving it?
I'll give it a 5. You're right. It's very niche. You gotta build the deck around it. You gotta have the piece in place, and it's got to be significant for you to use it. So I'll give it a 5.
Adam?
Yeah, I'm gonna give Materia 4 because I think she has less options, but I'm gonna give Spiritus a 5 just because I think if you're really all in on the Neo Exdeath plan, this is kind of like running 6 Neo Exdeath, so you have more of a chance to play him turn 1 where he's the hardest to deal with. And that's the only reason I give him like a slight point advantage. Otherwise, they're basically the same. So
I think that's fair.
He knows all about that, dealing with it turn 1, turn 2.
Yeah, I mean, on the light side of things, it's usually going to be Citra, right? You're usually going to pay 3 and drop Citra.
I think Oracle of Light
could do
some things, and Light Wool if you're like playing Warrior Lights. But then the thing about Warrior Lights, they already have light cards, so it's kind of like I don't know.
So now that we mention all 3 of those, by the way, what I'm messing with is Light Zidane. So anyway,
like the old one, the starter.
Yeah, I see that just sparked an eyebrow from you. You were like, "Oh, wait a minute, that actually might not be too bad."
There's like so many Zidanes in other colors. Like, no, that's like the one people don't play anymore. So I'd be interested to see what you're doing over there.
We'll see. I mean, it may not work, but we'll see. It's like only being run as it could happen.
He used to be a boss, man. That card used to be real good.
Right? Yeah. Used to be a mess. All right, that finishes all of our single element legends. So let's jump into our multi-element legends, starting with our Fire Wind in Lednar. Good old Lednar. 3 CP, Fire Wind 8K. When Lednar enters the field, due to your cast, place 1 fortune counter on Lednar. If a fortune counter is placed on Lednar, Lednar cannot be broken. And has an action ability for discarding 2 cards. Remove all fortune counters from Lednar. Each player can use this ability. So if I play it on the field, Tark, you can discard 2 from your hand to have Lednar remove that counter, which now means Lednar can be broken. I think anytime you start with a card that can't be broken on your forward line, Adam, you're probably in a pretty good place card design wise as being a pretty effective card.
Yeah, no, I think he. So I really like the old Lednar. I know a lot of people didn't play him a lot, and he's not like super good or anything, but he was really annoying, and I used to like trying to see how my opponents would deal with him. And this I think is more annoying.
Tax Lednar.
Yeah, the one you had to pay 2 whenever you did something with him. Yep. But I think this one's just better, right? I mean, he costs 1 more CP, but he's like bigger, and like they have to discard 2 cards, which I think the old one was just like pay 2, so you're essentially paying 4. The only I guess big difference is like they can discard light and dark cards to this.
Sure.
Again, I think when you're playing this, you're probably pushing more toward. I mean, I know he doesn't need the Tactics Advanced stuff, but I think that's probably where you're heading because you're trying to like search stuff out and play all those and take advantage of that kind of tribal thing. And I don't know how good that really is, but I think this is a solid enough card. And he's over curve, right? He costs 3, but he's dual element, which is also an advantage because you can discard for each one. So I think he's just a solid card. I don't think he's doing anything crazy amazing, but he's really hard to deal with and he's sticky. So
I'm going to tell you one of the things I like about this. We were talking about Leo, and I started a sentence with, nothing feels better than when you pop Leo down for 1 CP and they spend anywhere from 3 to 5 to immediately get rid of him. Nothing feels better
Spending 4 CP
than to watch your opponent discard 2 to make sure Lednar gets off the board, and you cancel that action ability.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up. I like that though. That's my play style right there. I love that. I like being annoying. So
they just gave up 2 cards, and you cancel that freaking ability. And it's like, would you like to try again? Would you like to discard 2 more? That feels good. This is another one of those cards for me that kind of becomes a lightning rod effect. We were talking about Leo in that way earlier, and Lednar kind of becomes that too, where, well, crap, before I can really effectively deal with anything, I got to deal with that. Or it's just going to block for days, and I'm totally prohibited from attacking at this point until I deal with that, whether it's dulling it, whether it's dull freezing it, whether it's getting rid of the counters and getting it out of there. Like, whatever you got to do, you have to deal with this, or you're effectively shut off from attacking me. I like cards like that. What I also like about this one is it's not so ridiculous that it's, if you don't have the answer this turn, Adam, you're dead.
Yeah, it's not behemoth.
Yeah, that's not effective game space design for me, mentally. There's just something to be said for your opponent has a chance, right? It's not, if you caught them without a Diabolos in their hand at some point, they're dead. I like this. This kind of straddles the line for me. Although, could we stop pretending as Hobby Japan that being multi-element is the downside of these cards?
That's their excuse, right? That's their
excuse for why they're undercosted and overpowered, is because they're multi-element. And so you printed Tyro. I mean, you printed Tyro.
They did print that card. That's true.
So let's not pretend that multi-element is a downside anymore. I do like this card quite a bit. It's not going to fit in any decks I personally play. In a Marsh Ritz package, it's absolutely infuriating and annoying. I have lost to it on Octagon simply because 3 turns go by and I still don't have an answer, and discarding isn't an effective answer for me to actually be able to do other things and survive. So it can be annoying. I do like running Sid in my lightning backup line that removes counters for dulling. That's pretty sweet. To way to deal with Lednar, but yeah, not a favorite card of mine. I don't think it warps the meta in any way. It just is an interesting multi-element card. I'm going to put it at 7. What do you got, Tark?
Question about it, actually.
Yeah.
So when their opponent uses the ability, is that considered your opponent's ability, or is it your ability?
I'm not sure why you need the qualifier.
Shara with Lednar.
So Shara is you have to target with Shara, right?
Or yeah, Shara is choose.
Yeah, so Lednar doesn't actually choose.
Yeah,
it's just like discard
the
2
effect.
Okay.
It just means that the forward cannot be chosen.
Yeah.
Lednar's effect doesn't require choosing a forward at all.
Okay.
You just discard 2 cards and the counter is removed. Yeah. Yeah, I see why you're asking now, though, but Shara's effect doesn't require the selection of a forward.
This is me being a noob.
I'm sorry. Lednar's effect does not require the selection of a forward. No, that's why you're here, to ask those types of newer player questions for us.
I bet someone else has asked that same question before, so it's not like.
What do you give it?
I'll give him an 8. That would be just super annoying. And you got to remove cost of 4 CP just so that you can actually have the ability to break him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not even dead at that point yet.
Yeah.
Unless presumably you've already put damage on it in combat or something, of course. But yeah, that's 4 CP just to have a shot at getting rid of it. Although, Adam, to your point, it does allow you to discard light and dark cards. So I guess if your hand's bricked,
that's like the only negative. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing to bring up, I guess, because it doesn't really say, like, if it was like pay 4 CP, it'd probably be a little bit better. But like,
That'd be rough.
Tomato, tomato.
What do you give it? What do you give it, Kronos?
I'm right there with you. I think 7 is about where it is. I think it's just the right amount of annoying. It doesn't really feel like too overbearing.
It's
where it's like
right amount of annoying.
No, I like cards like this. I don't know. I like putting a card down and really making my opponent have to think about how they have to deal with it. And this is one of those cards, right? Like there are ways you can do, like you can remove it from the game, right? That gets around it.
Yep.
You can dull him, right? I mean, dulling him, what's he gonna do?
There's anything that isn't going to break, right? So if your opponent's dumb enough to put it out there alone against a water deck, it deserves to be fam-fritted. Stuff like that.
So there's a lot of interesting ways to play around it. It really makes you think. Is why I like the card more than anything. But I think it's also just good.
Next up, we've got the Ice Earth Legend. Indeed. Indeed. White Tiger Lassie Nimbus. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. 3 CP, 9K. Seems good. You can only pay with CP produced by backups to cast White Tiger Lassie Nimbus, as if that text really fucking mattered. Brave. You like that, Adam?
That's pretty good. I liked it.
If it was 5, then that would matter.
No, it's because he's Earth. It's because he's Earth. It's hilarious to me. But yeah, continue.
Yep. And when White Tiger Lassie Nimbus enters the field or attacks, choose one character opponent controls, dull it and freeze it. Dull it and freeze it. Holy balls. Yeah. So first off, having to use backups to cast a 3-cost forward that one of the 2 elements is Earth, is having that stipulation is laughable. Is absolutely laughable with Shantoto and Tyro and Tiro, however you want to pronounce it. I don't care. Tyro. And the fact that there are people playing this in decks that aren't running Ice and Earth anyway. They just are grabbing it to throw it into the break zone. And they're
I would say for them, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to get it in other ways anyway. Yeah. Whether, it's a Phoenix, whatever you want to do.
For the most part, they're probably not running Ice at all.
Yeah, not running Ice at all. At all.
Yeah.
So you're not really worried about it. But, oh my God. Schnell gives it 22 out of 10. I don't think Nick's wrong.
No.
Can we just skip straight to scoring and we'll talk about why? This I think has to be a 10 out of 10, only because the meter goes to 10. It's cheap. It's big. It has an immediate impact on the game state. It inherits Brave simply because it's Earth, which just makes it even dumber to not be running this in anything that is running Earth. And it has that recurring impact every single turn. Go watch Monday's stream, and you will watch, if you watch the very last game on Monday's stream, you will watch this card single-handedly bring me back from 6-0 and a board state I had no right winning. And just through some creative play lines in and out of my break zone, and using the recurring ability to just keep an Adele down so that it couldn't swing unblockable at me. If you don't know by now, you need to play this card. 10 out of 10. I'm done. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, it's a 10. It reads a lot like Behemoth K, I think, where it's like it's not doing anything super fancy, but like it's big and dumb and coming down the board, and you have to kill it.
Yep.
I definitely had to read this a couple times when I first saw it, because it's like, okay, he does that every time. Oh, it's character, not just forward.
Yeah.
So it's
Start
like
freezing backups.
Yeah.
Climus,
so like
one of the locals in the Pittsburgh crew here. Hey, Climus, thanks for coming by, my friend. Says White Tiger Lassie Yishtola. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. He's rough, and like the fact that he's Earth, it makes like his requirement pretty laughable, right? Yeah. Like I just play Tiro, 2 backups. I go get this guy, I play him.
And
you know,
Tiro, a
we're-
little bit of a risky endeavor right now. Fenrir's a little
right
more
because of Fenrir.
because
Yep,
of a
that's
card
true.
we're going to talk about later that has kind of given Fenrir more validity than Fenrir used to have. Plus, it's a 3-drop, so there's 100 different ways to bring this into the field from the break zone. Yep. I mean, this I think is card 2. If you have to rank them, the Legends is the most meta impacting cards. I think this is number 2 on the list.
Yeah, I could probably get behind that.
There's one that we're going to talk about later that I think takes number 1. This one I think takes number 2. What do you got, Tark?
10, because he's just good, just really good.
Yeah,
dual and freeze. Oh, just and characters. You're right, just backups.
He can really like everybody's playing dual element stuff, right? So being able to freeze, double freeze a backup matters a lot.
Yeah,
because I can
you
really
got 2 water and 1 lightning back there, Adam. Be a shame if something happened to that lightning.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, enough said. Just a powerhouse of a legend card and a mere 3 CP. Next up, we've got the box topper. Right there. Golbez. 5 CP, 9K, lightning, wind forward. X-Burst. When Golbez enters the field, you may search for 1 card of cost 2 and add it to your hand. And at damage 6, when Golbez enters the field, you may search for up to 3 cards of cost 2 and add them to your hand. Then you may play any number of job Arcfiends from your hand onto the field. And just for those of you that maybe don't have a lot of experience with Opus XIII in particular, the Arcfiends did get reprinted. I'm sorry, reprinted is a bad word. New versions of the Arcfiends got printed in this set. So now we have the older set of 4 and a newer set of 4 as well. Rubicante and Cagnazzo and Scarmiglione and Barbarisia. So yeah, lots of targets. Oh, and by the way, that search is just anything cost 2, so it doesn't even have to be an Arcfiend on that. Big body in lightning, so you guys already know I'm in favor of it. Me and my love for lightning, and it's a big 9K body. It is the box topper promo if you buy a booster box, so it's not going to be hard to get if you're looking for them. Honestly, though, I didn't play old Golbez decks. This card doesn't make me want to play a new Golbez deck or a modified Golbez deck, so I don't know if I'm going to score this as high as the 2 of you will. That damage 6 ability is powerful, but you are committed to an Arcfiend deck to really make it pay off. Yes, you could go a little light on the Arcfiends and still get some value out of it, no doubt. But if you want to slam somebody, you're probably going to be using the newer Arcfiends, which, ironically, can search and play Golbez, so it is a dangerous deck. It's just not my flavor of lightning. So, Tark, we'll go to you first.
I love Final Fantasy IV, and I love the Arcfiends. I want to build this deck. I want to make it work.
Oh, it'll work. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. It'll work. But yeah, you're committing. It's a committal.
Yeah.
It's a committal. There's no half-assing this one if you want it to really...
You're going fall in. You're going all in. 9K backup searcher, yeah.
Well, because it searches a 2-drop, a cost, a card of cost 2. A card of cost 2. So technically, yes, you could grab a monster, a backup, or a summon. You don't have to be grabbing an Arcfiend or anything like that.
True. Yeah.
Adam, what do you think?
So I'm gonna go in a little bit different direction than y'all are going. So
okay.
I do think when you read this at face value, you're thinking like Archfiends, right? You're like,
well, for the damage 6,
going.
Yes, I've seen it run in some different creative ways where they don't even care about the 6.
Yeah, actually, the best decks I've seen them in, at least for me so far, don't run Archfiends at all. Actually, they're typically like Sophie decks because LOL Sophie's Earth, and you can play whatever you want. Earth
cost
deck.
2.
And she costs 2, and there's backups that cost 2, and Sarah's in that list, and you have a lot of 2 costs, and you're playing Lena, so that has a lot of like kind of cool things there. And oh yeah, he's an EX burst, so if he flips off the top, guess what? Sophie's in my hand. He does a lot for that deck, and it's just interesting. It's like not the first thing you probably think of, but you do have to kind of like go out of your elements a little bit. But the thing is like we said earlier with White Tiger, it's like when you're playing Earth you almost can play any element you want because you're probably playing Tiro, you're probably playing Shantoto. You probably have other ways to get whatever elements you want,
Yeah,
so
and you were seeing Kimari an awful lot now too, in the Earth backup line.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah, that's funny because everybody's playing all these multi-element things. So now Kamari basically is whatever he wants to be. And yeah, so I just think this does a lot more than just for the art. But obviously, like if you're playing Archfiends, right, you're playing like 3 of the Sky, no questions asked. Like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
going in the deck. But I just think he's an interesting, like you could run like one of them or two of them in some decks that just rely heavily on some 2 CP things that you need. And he can go get you that. And like sometimes he just comes off the top and he gets you that for free. So I just think he's pretty solid strong card for that alone, and the fact that he's versatile too, like backups, and it doesn't matter as long as it costs 2.
So what do you give it?
I'm I'm somewhere between like 7. I'm gonna go a 7 just because I don't think he just like is like immediately like 3 up everywhere, but I almost want to give him an 8 because I just do think he's strong, and I mean like worst case he's just at 9K, right? That's pretty big, so yeah, I'm gonna say 8. I'm gonna say 8.
What you got, Tarkov?
8. I love Golbez. I love the Archfiends.
I'm gonna go 6. I love them. I love Final Fantasy IV. Yeah, I think it's a good card. I'm giving him the 6 because he's a good card because it's just not my play style. Just not my play style, and that's the only reason. That's the only downside that I'm giving it to it. It's just not my play style. This kind of deck bores me. I didn't like the previous Golbez deck from many opuses, whatever the plural is. Opus sets. I have a friend that is all about that deck. Not only do I find it boring to play, I find it particularly boring to play against because it's just okay. Go ahead, break him. All right, you broke him. Shantoto, swing. It's while this does have a little more versatility than the previous one, I just find it a little boring for my tastes. But more power to you if you like that archetype. Definitely a good card. 6 out of 10. All right, moving on here. We're almost done, gentlemen.
I thought you were going to say we're skipping the next card.
Yeah.
Is this Game Breaker?
No, we're not skipping the next card. We got to talk about Sophie. We got to have a little chat about this legend. 2-drop Earth Water at 4,000 power. For each Earth forward other than Sophie you control, Sophie gains 2,000 power. For each water forward other than Sophie you control, Sophie gains 2,000 power. At the end of your turn, if Sophie has 10,000 power or more, draw 1 card, and Sophie deals your opponent 1 point of damage. It's like almost like an afterthought. Oh, and by the way, after you draw that card, go ahead and deal your opponent 1 point of damage. Just for being you. Just for being you. I also think that we would be remiss if we did not give an honorable mention here to Sarah Mobius, also printed in this set. 2-drop Earth Water forward at 5K. That when Sarah Mobius enters the field, you select one of the following actions. Choose a forward you control and one the opponent controls, and they do a punchy punch. Each forward deals damage equal to its power to the other, or you can draw a card. So I think we got to put Sarah Mobius there as a bit of a mention with this card.
Yeah.
She also counts twice, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say, because you also have that unfortunate side effect of, yes, you are correct, Tarkin, in asking that. Sarah is an Earth forward, so +2 to Sophie. Sarah is also a water forward, +2 to Sophie. Sophie, just by having Sarah on the board, goes from 4 to 8K. And one other Earth or water forward now puts her at 10 for that draw a card. Oh, and by the way, go ahead and just deal a point of damage to your opponent because fuck them.
Don't even need to attack. It's just,
why not?
I'm done.
You know what? Just do it. Just do it. The old you would have done it, so just do it. Obviously, so we had alluded earlier that the one card we put at 2, Nimbus, we put at 2 as far as the meta impacting of the legends. I think without a doubt, Sophie is currently the #1 meta impacting legend. Whether that'll hold throughout the entire set, we'll see, because there are cards that are enjoying their time in the limelight right now that do deal with her very easily. You know, 4-drop Dark Shadow Lord is a nice way to get rid of any 2, not just Sophie. 2-drop Diabolos, a big one, because it kills anything that's had its power increased or decreased. So Sophie is pretty much in a constant state of power increase, and a number of ways that we're seeing Zalbog in Lightning. We're seeing a lot of revival of things that can get rid of 2s very cheaply and efficiently. So we'll see how long Sophie impacts the meta. But, oh, by the way, she's fucking job Monk. So, yeah, go ahead and throw her in a Monk deck. That works. By the way, she's a 2-drop Earth Forward, so that 5-cost Fenrir summon, what do you want to do? Bust your opponent's Tyro so that they're off color and drag Sophie from your break zone back to the field? Seems fucking good. Let's do it. Yeah. That's it. I mean, 10 out of 10, right? I mean, this simply
10 out of 10.
The most meta-defining card in the set so far. So I, rather than espouse all the good, oh, and by the way, that last bit of text happens during end phase, so your opponent can't even respond at that point. If they're gonna do something to Sophie, they've got to do it in main 2.
Which creates really stupid loops, right?
Yes.
Because then it's like, yeah. Because I don't know if Tark's aware of that. So, like,
No,
when you
go ahead and explain it, because I was just about to ask, what do you mean by that?
So in the FFTCG, if I go to the end of my turn and I attempt to pass, your opponent also has to pass, so both priority has to go through before you go to end step. And in Final Fantasy TCG and end step, neither player can add to the stack. Things just happen in order, like, of
any auto
when they would
triggers.
happen.
Yeah.
So basically, you don't want Sophie to end the turn at 10, right? So say I pass to you, and then you kill something to make Sophie an 8 or whatever. I can then play another forward to make her a 10 and then pass back to you. And now you have to kill something else to prevent her from ending the turn at 10. And then we can just get in this really stupid thing where...
Right, because you're not going to go to end
stuff
until the priority is passed consecutively twice, once by each player. So by you taking an action after I've passed priority, I still have the ability to reclaim my main 2 at that point, because there was not a pass. So,
and it also makes it pretty much impossible to cancel it.
Yep.
Because it's an end step. So
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you can't break Y'shtola in response to her ability because it's an auto ability. No, there's none of that. None of those shenanigans. So I guess the only question I will ask here, since we don't need to score this one and we can just finish up with the last few cards here. One, did Sarah really fucking need to be printed in this set? Jesus. And 2, do you think it is as meta impacting at the end of July, when we're a week away from Opus 14? Do you think it's as meta impacting then as it is now, knowing that monks aren't going anywhere right now? That's a strong deck and will be for this entire set. Earth is a strong element across the board, however you want to mix it up. Sophie is seeing play in decks that don't even run water forwards besides having Sarah Mobius in the deck, and conversely, that don't even have Earth forwards besides Sarah Mobius in the deck. So I wouldn't consider Sophie even bound elementally to Earth Water. As long as you're running one of those 2, there's a chance Sophie could be in that deck. Usually you will also see Sarah Mobius to counterbalance the fact that you don't have forwards of one of those 2 colors. And she's cost 2. I mean, jeez. So I just don't see Sophie outgrowing the meta until at least 14, or the meta outgrowing Sophie, I should say, until at least Opus 14 comes out. Then, of course, new set, new rules. I just don't see a way this card all of a sudden disappears or becomes tier 2. I think it's always going to be tier 1 in Earth Water decks, and maybe low tier 1 in Earth X or Water X decks. I just don't think there's a way this goes away for the next 3 months.
No, I'm pretty confident that I can say no. So like you brought up the point earlier where you were like, oh, well, a lot of things could kill her, right? But because she costs 2, a lot of things can bring her back.
Yep.
And she's always played it
Even
efficiently.
Baby
Well,
Phoenix.
not always.
Baby
Right.
Phoenix.
Baby Phoenix could. Yeah, like Lena is a big
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah.
Lena brings back her and Sarah, so that's cool. And then, oh, by the way, now I have those 3 on the board. Cool, take a point of damage and I'll draw myself a card. And that's just a really easy board state to set up. And you know, she costs 2. Like again, you ran back to the fact that like they're able to print these high power cards because they see the dual element as a drawback. But a lot of players are just gonna look at ways to like circumvent that and find ways to like get them in and it's yeah. I think it's just really it's too easy to do what she needs to do, and she kind of goes around. She's like one of the. I mean, they're starting to print more things that do alternative points of damage, but this is probably the strongest effect, I think. So
Yeah,
it's pretty nutty.
I almost wish. I actually have a little bit of a design space problem with this card, and the fact that trigger is end phase.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be a enter main
Like on
2.
attack, maybe.
Yeah, or maybe on attack. Yeah, maybe and on beginning of main phase 2. I kind of don't like that type of effect being in the end step. But it is what it is.
No, I think it's bad to put it there too. I agree with you. Yeah.
Or is it amazing?
No, it's
I mean,
bad.
it's amazing if you're playing it.
It's bad.
If you're playing the card, it's amazing.
Design-wise, it's bad. All right, I'm just going to say this one right now, at least for me. Weakest of the legends for me. And unfortunately, that's not because I think the card sucks, but you're a cadet. You're a cadet. And I have a friend in locals that from day one when he started playing, and many of you have seen him play on Octagon, Papa Yanni on Octagon. Cadets are his babies. And so here's 9. Climus gives it a Yanis out of 10. That's the guy. Yanis is the guy that loves cadets. A 6-cost lightning fire 9K. You can dull 1 active fire cadet forward and 1 active lightning cadet forward instead of paying the CP to cast 9. So that's cool. Dull 2 forwards and you pay nothing for this 9K. When 9 enters the field or attacks, choose 1 forward opponent controls. Until the end of turn, it loses 2,000 power for each job class 0 cadet you control. That would obviously, based on that wording, include forwards and backups. So if you are running a cadet's deck, this is a powerful card, no doubt, in a cadet's deck. 2 things. The cadet's deck, even the strongest builds of the cadet's deck, aren't terribly strong when you start looking at a competitive environment. Yeah, you might mop up at some locals here and there or catch a meta deck by surprise or a good draw or whatever, but the consistency factor just isn't there. And 2, I can and Giannis has had this argument with some, the name clash of 9, it's not 100% clear on 1/9 being better than the other, kind of the same thing you were talking about with Ovelia, Adam.
Yeah, doesn't the other 9 do something pretty similar to like when he's out? I think doesn't he doesn't power reduction on attack or something?
Yeah,
I don't honestly remember, but I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and the alternate cost here is more the benefit for this particular 9.
Although dulling forwards is harder than you think. Like you're really losing a lot when you dull 2 forwards.
So the other 9 is 4-drop that on attack, you choose any forward until the end of turn. It gains 1,000 power for each cadet forward you control. And then all forwards cannot block this turn is the special.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Special. So argumentatively, it's, is it the best 9 even? I don't know. I'm going to score this right away at like a 3. Only because, 1, I don't play Cadets deck. It's never really interested me. I'm not a huge Type 0. I enjoy the game, but it's not like one of my favorites, so I don't have any emotional draw to Type 0. And meta-wise, I don't think this impacts the meta in any real meaningful way because it is only useful in a Cadets deck, which is just nowhere near a meta deck right now, Tark. So I'm going to give it a 2. This is going to be my lowest scored legend.
All right, I will give it a I guess a 1. I've never played with this. I don't know anything about the cadets, so I'm just gonna take your word on it that they're not strong. Giannis out of 10. There we go.
Adam?
There was a time when they wreaked havoc. It's been a while though, but I mean, yeah, I don't really see them making a comeback unless they print some more stuff that's incredibly strong. And even if they do, I'm not sure if you even play this when that happens. So I'm gonna go with you, Mike. Well, I think you said a 2. I'll go 3, but it's down there. I think it's
Being a
also
little
probably
more
They'd really
generous.
have to bring up the tribe, is what you're saying, for this to.
Oh,
they
yeah.
have things, but the problem is they're so spread across like 4 elements or 3 elements, and so you have to like, and then one of them's not Earth, so you know, kind of makes it hard. But and then like they all like revolve really heavily around just having a ton of crap out, and that's pretty hard to do. So
Yeah.
They can catch you by surprise, though. They absolutely
Oh,
can.
yeah.
They can win a game. You know, a well-timed snake bite from 7 can
Yep.
shut the game down, and no doubt. Last up in the Legends category, we've got Celestia, the Water Ice Legend, a 4-drop 9K. Water characters you control cannot be broken by opposing summons or abilities that don't deal damage. And when an ice character you control is chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities, choose up to 1 character, dull it, and freeze it. I think we should give an honorable mention here to 2-drop Charlotte in Ice, which basically forces opponent's stuff to target Charlotte if able, rather than to target something else. Charlotte happens to be an ice forward, and Celestia likes that quite a bit. So I think we should give a little bit of an honorable mention there. Charlotte seeing a lot of play in ice decks right now, even without Celestia. One thing, Adam, I'm going to let you go first on this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think she's just okay. I think even by herself, because she like both her effects affect herself, kind of makes her a bit annoying to deal with. She has higher power because she's dual element. So I think she's just solid. She's not really doing anything super flashy. I mean, she's just making it a little awkward for your opponent, but not anything crazy. I think kind of how I feel. So I'm kind of just like lukewarm, like mediocre on her.
Really? Well, I thought
I
you'd
mean,
be. I
she's
thought you'd be a little higher on this one.
I think she's a good card. She's just not really doing anything. It's almost like when we talked about like Golbez and some other stuff, where it's like I think she's good,
Yeah.
but I don't know. The Golbez stuff excites me more because he's doing stuff with other cards. I feel like when you play this a lot, it's just I don't know. I mean, yeah, you have to think about how you affect certain like do certain things, but I don't know. Seems
do you
really.
think?
It just feels kind of boring to me.
What do you think, Tark?
I was thinking if she was chosen to be blocked or something involving combat in some way, that would be more interesting. But since it's just being the target of summons or abilities, I'm kind of with you, Chronos, that it's a little bit boring. I like that that she gets both the effects off herself. That's nice. And that combo, I didn't know about that combo. That combo sounds pretty nice too. But it's meh.
So here's my thing. I actually like Celestia quite a bit, and I'm not generally an ice player. We've been messing with some ice decks on Octagon lately, simply to kind of show off some of the hot new sexy from Opus XIII. But I'm not generally an ice or a discard player. It's my least favorite game style. I am very curious to mess with Celestia, and I'll tell you why. I think she opens up an archetype that we've seen in other TCGs, particularly Magic the Gathering, for a long time, that Final Fantasy has always seemed like it almost could do, but really couldn't. And there's actually 2 in that category for me. A Taxes deck, which we're getting closer to being able to do that, but a Prison deck. I think Celestia opens up a very interesting possibility for an ice water prison, where effectively nothing can be done to any of your forwards in any meaningful way, and therefore you just sit there and start getting pummeled. When you start looking at things like Yuna, Water Yuna, and the party attacking abilities there, Rosa with the ability to continuously party attack, activate, Cecil, which then opens up Theodore because you're running Rosa. and depending on what Cecil you're running, because there's a few different ways you could go here. You could go with the old 9K one, and now all of a sudden everything can't take damage from summons at all, all of your forwards, and you just got to find a way to prevent Cecil from having to block it or to attack every turn or block every turn. I don't remember off the top of my head which it is.
I think it's block. I think he has to block.
He has to block if he's able to. Yeah, if you could duck him out of that, then effectively you can't immediately break most forwards because Celestia's saying they have to take damage, but Cecil's saying no, forwards don't take damage. And now anytime you ping and then you put Charlotte on the board, and now I can't do anything but target an ice character if I want to get rid of forwards, but now Celestia is going to dull freeze characters off of that. I think you start creating a very interesting prison. How about going with the other Cecil, the one that runs Protect, right? And take 4K damage off of this forward and put it somewhere else. Put it on or put it on Cecil and take 2,000 less on that. I think it opens up the possibility for a really interesting prison archetype that I want to explore with. That said, I can understand that there aren't a lot of people that would really enjoy that play style. And quite honestly, if you sit across from that type of deck, my God, like, you know, how much fun is that?
It's head not table.
Yeah, Celestia and Yuzuki. Yeah, absolutely, Chanel. 100%. While it's always been almost there, like you could almost protect a board against anything, Celestia, I think, really expands the ability to dig into that, and I want to. I'm going to put it at a 6.5, 7. I don't think it's a huge impact to the meta, but I think it opens up interesting possibilities. If this was any other color combination, I would rate it higher. Because it's water ice, I think I keep it at a 7 rather than make it an 8. All right. Poor Faye. I told her we were going to run late.
Yeah, it's been.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and skip the other Square Enix news. But we do have a few honorable mentions. They weren't legends. Adam and I sat down and were like, is there anything we should mention? But not a ton because the show's going to run long anyway. And so there were a few, 4 to be exact. So you know exactly how much you're in for here. 4 special little cards we wanted to bring up as being interesting enough for an honorable mention. And the first one goes to Sid Randell in Ice. Sid Randell in Ice. This little son of a bitch. 4-drop, 6K Ice forward. Why do I keep hitting the wrong button there? I'm dumb. That's the one I want. 4-drop, 6K Ice forward. If you control a card named Remedy, Sid gains 2,000 power. Opposing forwards entering the field will not trigger any auto abilities. This applies to their own abilities and abilities triggered by your opponent's forwards entering their field. So your forward that says, when enters the field, do X. If Sid's on the board, no, you on your opponent's board, you don't get to do X. And if you have a forward on the board that says, when a forward enters your field, do X. If Sid is on your opponent's board, you don't get to do X then either. Sid Randell is not one of the cards that I will probably play with a lot. Again, just because it happens to be an Ice and I don't generally play a whole lot of Ice. But, Sid is probably one of my top 5 favorite cards in Opus 13 because of what I think it does for the game. I think, just look at the background that I have and all that shit, right? I love Final Fantasy TCG. I think the game has suffered for the last multiple Opus sets for cards being judged on their immediate impact to the board. And if it doesn't immediately do something to the board, the second you play it, it's automatically a tier B card. I don't like that design space or that mentality. We talked about Soryu, Dragon Soryu, earlier. 5K 9-drop forward in Ice that has a cool ability that's going to net you value, but it doesn't that first turn you play it, unless you give it haste, but that's usually not happening. I like Amaterasu canceling auto abilities and nuking a forward with 8K last set. I really like Sid in this set because I think it starts to show me that even Hobby Japan and Square Enix are kind of like, the board's a little heavy with if it doesn't have an enter the field effect, people aren't playing it. So let's kind of start countering that a little here and there. I will say this, just like when Amaterasu came out, it is one of those things that you have to play against 6 or 7 times before your brain even realizes what's going on with the card. I was playing Schnell the other day, and there were 3 times in like 3 different games where I'm like, all right, I'm going to get rid of him this way. And Nick's like, God damn it, Mike, you're smarter than this. That doesn't work. You just played a forward. It doesn't get that ability. And I'm like, oh, shit. It's mind warping because we don't have effects that do that. If you see a Y'shtola on the board, okay, you know that your enter effect could get canceled. We don't have anything that does what Sid does. And so it does take a while playing against it to get used to the fact of some of your stuff is shut off. And it was annoying in the games against Nick, because I think playing Nick, I think, was the first time I had ever played against it, actually. And it was annoying. But I thank Nick for those games, because I'm like, you know what, now that has beat into my head this whole new field effect, basically, that has not existed before. And I like what that does for the design space. So honorable mention from me. Thoughts on this card from either of you?
I think you hit it. I think it's pretty cool. Like, it definitely does something different. It doesn't seem as powerful as Amaterasu, at least to me just yet. But it definitely like sets the tone for maybe more stuff like this, and it really like does make you think about what you're doing.
Yep. Schnell
Like,
points
to,
out
like,
that
remember.
Shara protects him too. So yeah.
True. That actually is kind of important if you're running like Icewind or something.
Yup.
Could be some good combos. Could be some good combos with him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Strong.
Next honorable mention here goes from Sid to 7-drop lightning. 7-drop lightning. This is very, very cool. Very, very cool. Definitely deserves an honorable mention, even though it is not a legend in this set. 7-drop 9K power. When lightning enters the field, choose up to 2 forwards opponent controls or forwards in your break zone. Notice the word "or," people. That means you could do one of one and one of the other if you wanted to. Remove them from the game. When lightning leaves the field, return each card removed by lightning's ability to its owner's hands. So a nice way to get 2 forwards off of your opponent's board real quick, or a nice way to set aside some cards from your break zone that you can recover later, particularly maybe if you're worried about your break zone getting misdragoned at some point. And having a bunch of cards removed from game is a nice way to get a 9K body and protect those cards and get them back later. Yeah. I don't want to go too far with this because I want your thoughts first. So let's go with you, Tark.
She's pretty.
Yep, she is.
She costs a lot.
You know what? She doesn't have time for your shit.
Okay.
She's smart. She is tough. She's
a strong,
badass.
Yep.
She don't need you calling her pretty.
Okay. I apologize.
She's coming in and removing 2 forwards. She didn't do her hair today for you. Fuck you. Anyway, go ahead.
No, she's pretty good, and I know you love her because she's lightning. So, not just the name, you know.
Yeah, not the name. I actually can't stand Final Fantasy XIII as a game in general. It's okay, but lightning element is what you meant. Yeah.
Yes, I get it. Yeah, that's just strong.
Adam?
Yeah, there's a magic card I think that does exactly this. So when I saw this for the first time, I was like, oh, yeah, that's pretty good, because that magic card's also good. So yeah, I mean, a lot of times she probably just wins you the game on the spot, I think. But I mean, sometimes she just like prolongs the game. She does a lot. She's very versatile. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that she costs 7 for what she does, and she's a forward, so if she dies, you can theoretically play another one. Like unlike Shantoto, where it's a little bit trickier to play multiple Shantotos, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of times, your Shantoto's gonna hit like 3 forwards against like a good player, maybe 3. And she's always hitting 2, which is pretty good, and she's putting a 9K on the field. So
Yep.
it's really good.
And it's important that it says up to 2. So
Yep.
yeah, if you got in a pinch, you could make that one selection. If for some reason you want, or even the 0. I mean, I don't think you'd be spending 7 at that point, but in a pinch, it's still playable for some type of minimal effect, even if it's just one forward you got to get out of the way. I also want to point out, by the way, that for those of you that have maybe played before and dealt with cards like Dorgan that remove forwards from the game until they leave the game, Lightning is worded slightly differently from Dorgan.
Slightly better.
Yeah, better. You can get very creative with this Lightning. If you play this Lightning and target 2 of Adam's forwards with it, and on the stack remove this Lightning, their 2 forwards ain't coming back. So you can play this Althea, her back to your hand, in response to her own enter the field effect. She'll bounce to your hand, Althea resolves. Then Lightning's ability resolves to remove 2 forwards, and Lightning is not on the board to leave the field for that other effect.
Oh.
That's different than Dorgan, where Dorgan actually imagine Dorgan is putting text on the other cards that have them searching for Dorgan on the field. This does not put that text on those cards. So yeah, you could Althea her back. There's all kinds of different things you can do on the stack to get rid of this Lightning and just essentially remove 2 things from the game permanently. If you want to get creative, might take a little extra CP here or there, or bouncing a couple things back to your hand, but just an important call out on this one. So get creative in your thinking. That's why wording is important. Wording is important. Aldore Emperor, our third of 4 honorable mentions, a 5-drop 9K Lightning Fire forward. When Aldore Emperor enters the field, select one of the following 3. If you have 5 points of damage or more, select 2 of the following 3. Choose a forward, deal it 7K damage. Choose a forward of cost 3 or less, break it. Hi, Sophie. Choose one active forward, deal it 8K damage. So pretty much, I mean, can you think of a card in this set that like better fits the multi-elements it was assigned to? Like,
no,
reading those abilities, you're like, yeah, those are lightning and fire abilities, Tark.
Yeah, I gotta read that wall of text. Wow. It seems like a lot.
It's basically kill 2 dudes if you're at 5 damage. That's pretty much what it says.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 2 for 1 or 2 for 0. And by the way, you put a 9K body on the table. This is seeing a surprising to me amount of play. Like, I thought this was good, but this has actually caused a lot of people that historically I know don't really run fire or lightning to run fire and lightning. So I think it's picking up a little bit of flavor, and it's Brave Exvius, so we have searchers for it and other Brave Exvius FFB interaction cards with it as well. Adam's already got a smirk on his face over that.
You just run this in XR. That's really all you got to do, honestly. Yeah. I mean, you could go deeper down the rabbit hole, but like really, once you do those 2, that's pretty much all you need.
This is right up your play style, Tarkoth. Right?
Okay.
When you're not playing Wind, Shikari, Neo Exdeath nonsense, and you're actually looking for a deck that plays like you like, this is a card you want to look at, my friend. You definitely want to look at. Last one was actually a starter, so we've actually had this one a little longer than the last week because the starters did come out on time. It was the booster boxes that were not sent out on time. So this is Philia Fire Starter, 8-drop 10K. 8-drop 10K. When Philia is dealt damage by an ability, the damage becomes 0 instead. And when Philia enters the field, deal 10k damage to all the forwards. Philia deals you 1 point of damage. So for 8 CP, Adam, you're getting a double-sided board clear in 99% of circumstances, taking 1 point of damage on your own. But then you got a 10k body and your opponent's got nothing because Philia's first line of text cancels out the second line of text against Philia itself.
Yeah, and I think with this set, not just Philia kind of made this happen, but the old choo-choo lane, not the original one, but the second one, has seen a lot of play because just like blanking cards like this, you can blank it and make it where they don't get to keep their 10k, or just all the other cards with walls of text that are really good. Turns out the more text you put on cards, the better it is to blank them. So pretty good.
Somebody's going to kill your 7-drop lightning. 1-drop QQ lane that lightning.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
Take that ability away, and those forwards
Yep.
don't come back either.
Yep.
Oh, and QQ lane
Yep.
lets you draw a card.
You get the dice. Yeah, you get a nice card draw.
Yeah, get a nice card draw. Tark, you actually really like this card.
No.
You played it against me.
No, it was the other way around.
Oh, that's right. We were playing the starter decks
Yeah.
against each other when we were teaching you how to play. That's right. To be fair, chat, I didn't sandbag him. I gave him the choice of the starter decks.
But I do appreciate Oracle of Light, though. That combo was awesome.
Yeah. It did fare well. There are, of course, many other cards in the set, so I encourage you to check it out. As always, we also got word this week about the set after Opus 14. After Opus 14, I can't say Opus 15 because that's not. We're done. After Opus 14 on August 6th, we are done with calling them Opus and numbered sets. They will just go by their subtitles. This will be Crystal Dominion, and will primarily have one of its marquee games featured as Final Fantasy XV. Noctis and friends are going to be all over the place in there, and we'll be getting a new keyword, I guess, called crystals. So, yeah, they don't give a lot of information on crystals, but I upon further reflection, I think I actually have a different thought than what I put in the show notes here.
I think I know what it is too, but go ahead.
So the way they describe crystals is that a portion of the character abilities and summons will now appear with a new cost to be paid called crystals. Why they chose fucking crystals when the game requires crystal points for you to cast cards. I love teaching new players how to play this game. Called crystals, not the usual crystal points. Use abilities and more to gain crystals and experience the latest strategy. Dice or counters can be used to keep track of the number of crystals, but Crystal Dominion includes 2 kinds of premium version crystal cards, and these can also be used during games. Initially, I was kind of like, well, how does that differ from counters that we already use? But then I kind of thought, oh, wait a minute. This sounds a lot more like energy in Magic the Gathering, where it's Mike gains this resource, and my own, and not a specific card like counters gain the resource. So probably a lot like that. We'll know more soon. Keep your eyes peeled. Let's head over and do Love It or Leave It, and then call it a show. A 2-hour show. Jesus. Mary and Joseph, chat, I hope you enjoyed this. It'll get like 8 YouTube video or YouTube hits now, and I'll be like, well, that was definitely worth the 2 hours. We're going to change it up a little bit since we did the Opus 13 review here. Instead of just a clear-cut Love It or Leave It Opus 13, I think all of us would just pick Love It. So here's what I want you to do. You got to pick your favorite card, any rarity in Opus 13 as of this moment right now, with the acknowledgement that maybe it'll change a couple decks from now and a couple games from now. That's fine. What's your favorite card right now? You love that one and you leave the rest. Which one are you keeping, Adam? I'm only going to let you keep one card out of the set.
So I'm gonna go a little weird because I said earlier I probably wouldn't play the deck, but I really like that there's a playable Rubicante now. I like the Fiends too. I just wish that the deck met like more my play style, but I like that he's like actually playable. His art's really cool, and I'm a big fan of fire, so Rubicante is my favorite, I think, in the set right now.
Targoth.
I'm gonna go with the Oracle of Light because that combo was just amazing. You can't use it if she's the only 13 card I'm taking, but she was amazing. Sacked her, got your Stola. Your Stola brought back Urianger. Let's search for a card. And it wasn't even on my turn.
Pretty beefy. I gotta go with, come on. I gotta go with 7-drop lightning. It's in color. It's got an awesome effect. It's useful in mono lightning, which isn't useful by itself anymore, but it would be useful in mono lightning. It's useful anything that's running lightning. There is at least one spot for this card. It is that useful to me. And Schnell, oh my god. Okay, Schnell, I will say it. Hold on. Schnell would like you all to know. 6-drop rain, fire forward 7K.
I almost put it on the list when you sent me earlier, but I didn't.
The cost required to cast rain is reduced by 1 for each fire backup you control. When rain enters the field or attacks, choose 1 forward opponent controls, deal it 1k damage for each backup you control. And at damage 3, rain gains haste. Chanel would really like you all to know about rain. It is a good card. Okay. It is a good hero card.
It's good. Yeah.
If you're particular, you're running mono fire, that's a beast of a card. And makes the light rain even scarier in a mono fire deck with all those specials that gives you access to. Good grief. All right, hope you enjoyed the show. Those in chat, don't go anywhere. Right after the show, we are going live with the patient one herself, Miss Faye Death. How are you, Faye?
Oh, hey, I'm well. How about y'all?
You're all dolled up. What are you playing today?
Yes.
You got your makeup on. You're like,
yeah,
it's hard to see you. You're a little dark there, but I'm not like complimenting
your.
Just
lighting before this.
Yeah, you're like all pale and gothed out. What's going on?
Yes.
What?
We are dragging up another installment of Tales from the Backlog with a game that I bought myself for Christmas like 3 years ago, just installed this year, and still haven't played. Diablo 3: The Eternal Collection.
Word. Interesting. Getting ready for Diablo 4, huh? Getting ready.
Yes.
Can't wait.
We'll
so
see.
Faye,
They'll disappoint.
Yeah, probably.
We can enjoy this.
It won't. You won't be able to boot it up for the first 3 days. It's okay. It's fine. I'm sure they'll figure it out. Yeah. Faye Death will be coming live right after this. We'll go dark for about 20 seconds or so to change the titles around. Chat, make sure you hang out. Faye, you have a great stream. We'll be back, of course, next Thursday with another Relic Grind. But remember, we also have podcasts on Tuesday and Saturday, both at 7 p.m. Eastern as well. Tuesday is Snowbound, the Blizzard podcast, and Saturday is Gaming Gumbo, the general gaming show. And, of course, our lovely team of volunteer streamers having a wonderful time hanging out with all of you. Hope you can make it. Consider giving a follow. We would appreciate it. And get notifications on when we go live. And, of course, check out ReadyCheckRadio.com, RAIDEO.com. You'll have all the latest episodes and all the socials there so you can follow and support and send all of your friends. Until next week, Kronos, where can everybody find you, my friend?
Yeah, same as always. Just Twitter, chilling out there. Pretty much it.
Tarkoth.
Find me at Twitch and Twitter at Tarkoth Gaming, eating my Butterfingers.
God, it's like the most uncomfortable thing watching you eat those. So uncomfortable. I'm Mike Burns. You can follow me right there on Twitter at MagicMan1, but more importantly, follow at RC Radio, RAIDEO, and we'll tweet you every time we go live, so you'll never miss a thing. Thanks for hanging out on a long episode. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers. Later.